Hey, you guys! We are excited to share with you some very exciting news. We have created an online training platform that you can do in the palm of your hand.
With over 20 modules and nearly 80 lessons, this is the most comprehensive and detailed scalp micropigmentation course out there.
For those of you who can't travel here, maybe you're in other countries, you can now learn from your computer. You can sit at home, you can sit in a bus, and you can learn scalp micropigmentation with the greatest innovators in this industry.
Want to learn more? Click the link below.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Scalp Solutions podcast. I am your host, David Santiago, and today I have with me my man, Mr. Eddie Lopez. What's going on, brother?
Hey, how are you? Appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me.
My brother, thank you for taking out some time from your busy schedule to jump on the podcast and chop it up with us.
No problem. It's definitely my honor. Thank you so much.
Yeah, man, let's get right to it, Eddie. So tell us where you are from and what is the name of your clinic?
So corporate headquarters is in Denver, Colorado, Cherry Creek suburb, Scalp Artists International. I also own another location in Beverly Hills, California, which is Scalp Artists Beverly Hills.
Yeah, man. You know, my first question to you was going to be, how has business been for you? But being so strategic in your surrounding and your setup, I see behind you, business has been good because I see you got 4 awards there, and I now know it's for Denver's Hall of Fame for best hair replacement. So business obviously been good.
Yes, sir. God is good, man. I have a lot of great people behind me, from family and colleagues to the man upstairs. And it's something that, we don't take lightly. We work hard every day. And it's one day at a time.
Yeah, man, I see that. And I have a question, man. I'm just curious, like, how do you go about attaining, an award to that capacity? Is that something, like the surrounding people, like, did you bless some dude that's sitting in like one of those chambers and gave him a brand new start in life and he said, no, I'm giving this guy this award?
I have no idea, honestly. Like the very first time I got this award in 19, I don't sleep a lot, right? So I'll check a lot of emails. Plus, I'll communicate with Shane Anderson in Leeds, and so we talk a lot. And this late for me, like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. Well, it's 7 hours ahead in the UK, so that's like 9:30, 10. He's getting up, having coffee, he's ready to drop in. So we'll talk a lot or email and that kind of thing. So I was up checking the emails. I saw this saying you won this award, and I thought, oh yeah, here we go, right? This is
scam. Thought it was like a scam or spam or something.
Stupid, right? So I emailed back and I said, well, that's cool. And then the person emailed me back and said, oh, you're awake. And I was like, this isn't a computer generated.
It's not a bot.
What's going on here? So I actually got to talk to them. And there is some criteria that they set forth as far as, their nomination and final award process. So I posted that newsletter on my website, and it's pretty cool. So they use some type of, marketing matrix on, different things, from Better Business Bureau, Google rating, social media presence. Plus they have their own people. So I think they actually shop locations and they have people come and talk to you. So you got to remember, this is a Denver award. So you're not paying. So sometimes you'll pay, like, let's say you get a newspaper, New York Times comes to you and say, hey, David, we want to run an article on you, blah, 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 in the business section. You're like, great. They say, oh, by the way, it's going to be $3,000 for you to run it. As a business owner, that's great because it's marketing. You got recognized and that whatever, right? They picked you. Okay, that's great. And that there's a perfect place for that, on your website, in your social media. Yeah. Not so much in a group because you probably get massacred by all the Jonathan Churro and
they'd be like, oh, that's cute.
Rightfully so. No, I'm just playing. Everybody has, at the minimum, mutual respect. So, these aren't the type of awards that are like that. I still don't know who these people are. I still really don't know how I got it, or if someone nominated me, or this or that. Um, like I said, I just know it's one dot at a time, and everyone that comes in the door is just as important as the person that left. So that's what we do here.
Awesome. Excellent. I like that outlook, man. Either way, congratulations to you for that, man. And I like the display on it. And I'm pretty sure you've been able to leverage that, when it comes to customer acquisitions and, some consultations. Because I'm assuming this is not in your back office, right? Do they see this? Is this visible for your clients when they come in?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is my little domain right here, besides the procedure room, and on all that. But yeah, it's something. The main thing with client acquisition has so many different funnels. The doctor world is much different type of client and interaction versus, let's say, a social media funnel client, or even a web client that comes in, or a referral. All of them are so radically different. But the thing that does kind of bind everything together is the procedure. And whether they know a lot about it coming in, I make sure that they know at least what I feel is important on the way out.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And that kind of almost transcends into my next question, because you have been in the game for a while. I know you've mentored a lot of S&P artists that are in the industry now, some that are, they've made a name for themselves already. And my question to you is, how has it been, witnessing the evolution? Are you excited that the direction that the industry is going, or what?
Oh wow. You know, it's crazy, for someone in my position. When we came in, we didn't come in on the very first wave. The very first waves are the Mark Westons, the Bryce Clevelands, the Joe Taylor, even John and those guys, and Matt, when they came in with his, those are the first wave guys. So I wasn't a first wave guy. I would like to say I'm the second wave. So I came in under them. Joe was with them. I came in under Joe, early on. So, seeing what it was and what it is, we kind of predicted that because we always talked about it. For me, when I walked into the scalp room, I walked out of the cellular room. And that cellular room, I had been in that for 20 years. So I saw myself grow from, selling phones on little side hustle, flea market type thing, all the way to 12 mall stores, regional player, so I saw the full gamut of uh, individual to corporate world. So having that experience and knowing that business is business, there was an expectation level of the S&P world to follow suit. And there was that for the very big clients, the Vinci, even GLI, those girls work hard. They've done a great job. And, those type of companies, Bryce, Scalp Aesthetics, I know a lot of people don't like him, whatever. He still did what he did and does what he does. So it's like, I always have respect and pay respect where respect is due. And all those people, they took a culture, they took a hush hush procedure. I'm just talking, this is just in the United States. I mean, we could have a whole separate conversation about across the pond. I mean, we could go on and on. I know all those guys. You know them too. They're all great people. And so when you see that infrastructure come in like almost right away, and you see how it's being built, it's really exciting. The thing that's happening now is, things that we predicted. We all sat in a room, in Leeds with Damien and his team, and Don and Debbie, and all these great people. And we sat and we talked about these things, where's it going to go? How's this going to happen? And, what's going to hit the hardest? What's going to hit first? And everybody knew right away, anyone in hair, barber, salon, extension, system, surgery, anyone in that hair game was going to adopt it. And it's commonplace now. So, a lot of the, so we talked earlier and you said you're from the barber world. A lot of the barber world knows about this, and that barber room has been around for a very, very long time. And there's certain ambiance to that, which I think is great. You know, it's to me, it's almost more of like a street vibe, you know, and I'm from LA, so you know, South Central LA has its great things. If you read my Facebook page, it's gonna say I'm from Myrtle Creek. Well, my mom moved me out of LA when I was a kid and I was screwing up. It took me from I don't even know how many million people were in LA to Myrtle Creek, Oregon, that had like 5,000 people. She wanted to make sure that I didn't
One
continue.
extreme to another.
Yeah, so you know, I ended up going to college, blah blah blah, did all this great stuff. You know that you know I probably wouldn't have happened for me in the big city, but I understood the big city because I'm from there, and you know, every Christmas, every summer I spent down there. All my family was there. You know, we were the only ones living in the woods, and you know, the whole direction of the industry is kind of like that. I mean, it's come from the hush hush, quiet, quiet, medical, you know, salon, few people doing it, people, you know, maybe a slightest bit of, hey, we don't want anyone to know what we're doing because we're doing well, you know, a little bit of that, right? And so, you know, moving in today's world where it's fashion. S&P is fashion. It's on Instagram. It's on TikTok. You know, they're talking about it on Twitter, on Facebook. You know, we're having great this podcast. You know, I know you're one of the first people. I'm Valerie, you, Valerie, Damien. I don't think there's anybody else. I don't know. You know that I've done.
No, I think I don't know if he has a podcast, but he's kind of putting something out there. The kid that does marketing, the Bryson Beals.
Yeah, yeah. I get a lot of phone calls for Bryson.
Yeah. He's hey, listen, he's doing his job. That's what those guys do, man. They want they want to be on your ass.
but I am excited. You know, it is exciting to see that new style come in. That I love the energy, the salon world, the tattoo world. You know, is so different from what my marketing mix. You know, that clientele, that world, to me is very interesting. I don't know a lot about it, honestly. I don't. Like I said, I'm more of a medical, uh, researched client. Definitely, I don't own a barber shop. I don't get my organic lead generation from you know my existing clientele and that kind of thing. You know, I have to go out there and have a lot of funnels active to get my clients to come in. So and those funnels generally aren't you know the same type of clientele that the barbers and the tattoo artists are getting. So, like I said, the affiliation with Dr. Harris and hair surgery centers is definitely a different. I think Jaddy in London also does that. I believe his location is inside of actually a hair surgery center. So, you know, again, like I said, it's just a different perspective.
Got it. So it's culturally different cultures, but you're not necessarily saying, "Hey, man, I don't not rock with this." It's kind of like, all right, are you embracing the change?
I love
Okay.
it.
I,
I love it.
I
I love it.
I have to ask that because, you know, at least for me, you know, I consider you, you know, one of the OGs. I know you say, you know, you came with the second wave, but still the second wave, you're talking about 6+ years ago. Like that's still how long? Look at this, 14. As I was 14, you know, like I know in your era, like you said, it was hush hush. And when I get the perspective from a lot of the OGs, they usually give me the real perspective behind the scene. They're like, you know, I didn't want to say anything, but you know, some guys are not, they don't want to embrace change. But you love it. You like the way the trajectory is going, the business is growing. I mean, the word of mouth of the procedure is growing. It's just culturally, you handle business differently.
Absolutely. And you know, there's more than one car out there in the world. There's more than one color house out there in the world. There's more than one religion. You know, there's more than one ethnic background. So, you know, SMP, that's what makes SMP legit. You know, you have to have the diversity. If you don't have the diversity, then it's not real and it's not going to last. And SMP has it. You know, it's a great feeling because when I got in, there was that uncertainty of You know, is this a flash in the pan? Did I just lose all this money I put down on this stuff? Am I making a mistake? Am I gonna have to go back to the cell phone store? I mean, there was a lot of stress in the beginning. You know, I feel like this next wave or this current gen, you know, although their style is different and marketing and that kind of thing, man, bring it on. I love it. The more people that know about it, the
Yeah.
better. I mean,
Hey, researching it for you helps you out too.
try to just, like I said, one dot at a time. Just make sure that that's what it is. Everybody's going to be happy. There's plenty to eat.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And so now, is there anything within the industry right now that you see that's happening that doesn't quite sit well with you, or you feel could use a little bit of polishing? Or you're just like, you know what, it is what it is. That's how you do business, is how I do business. Let's just go on with what we do.
So, being that I'm a client first organization, top to bottom, it's always a client first. You know, there's a couple things out there that need to they need to be identified correctly at the source. So the trainers, the entities that are training go darker, put a dot everywhere, we gotta make some changes on that. This procedure is a lifelong procedure. It's not finishing spray. If I take some finishing spray and I put it on my beard, we're golden. I'm out. This is skin. This is pigment. It lasts. There's a duration time. There's a healing time. Too dark, too soon means big mistake in 2 years. They're saying, oh, it's healed now. It looks like this. It looks like that. Listen, I just worked on a client right now that his canvas was totally workable. Why? It was done by his in New York. I think he said it was about 8 or 9 years ago he's had it. So it was most likely, you know, one of the big guns that we all know. And it was great. I plenty of room, got in there,
You have
freshened it.
space to fill it in and make it look good.
Do my job. My job was to make that look good. And that presented itself in a fashion that it could be made to look good. Now, move forward to today, the put a dot everywhere, go too dark. That guy comes to me in 7, 8 years. What do you do with that? Just go darker? Okay, well, let's say that the person's lighter or their skin tone and their hair, their Fitzpatrick scales, you know, on the lighter end of things. What are you going to do with that guy? Just keep going darker? Well, okay, that's great. Well, you can only do that so many times before they're going to have to go to laser. It's just going to look like a mud puddle.
Before you give them a black yarmulke.
Yeah, for life, right? So for me, you know, if they're going to build that close and that tight, at least be a little conservative on the shade, you know? Or if you're going to build that, you want to build that darker, then be conservative on the cluster proximity. I mean, give it a little bit more room to breathe. Even in the hair surgery world, you could go in there and they say, oh, one guy says we're going to put 1,000 grafts in here. And then you say, okay, that's great. And you go and interview with the next guy, and he says, oh, we're going to put 2,000 grafts up there. And you're thinking, oh, that's even better. That's more. But let me tell you something. The 1,000 graft guy, his retention level is going to be higher than the 2,000 graft guy because there's more space in there. There's more oxygen. There's more blood flow for things to heal and do what they do naturally. That 2,000 guy is going to be stacked all up on top of each other. Everything's going to die because there's no blood flow and there's no oxygen. It's
Right.
the same with the impressions. If there's too many of them, they're just going to fade into each other. And that naturally occurs on your lighter impressions anyway. So you don't need that. Times darker, times too close, 3 strikes and you're out.
Right. Do you feel that's a lack of knowledge and just general like understanding of the technique when it comes down to the actual trainer? Or do you feel that that's just being used as a marketing technique to be like, hey, I can get you in 2 sessions and you're going to be good to go. You know, don't go to Eddie. Eddie's going to take, 3 sessions. Now you got to come back and forth. Like, what do you think? Do you think it's either or you think it's a combination of both?
It's absolutely both. Absolutely both. And I feel that the issue is time. The newer gen doesn't respect the time. Take your time in your procedure. Take your time in your mix. Take your time in your design. If they have to come back one extra time, or you have to see them an extra session, so what? At least it's done right. One mistake on one person is too many. And that's what has to be driven into the new gen. We don't want to make mistakes. That's a human. It's not a haircut where I just chop this side too low. Well, I'll grow back next week, and we'll be cool. I'll just throw some spray on it, look good for this week, and then I'm good. You can't do this. Is not the same. You cannot do that. And it's not a knock on the barbers or anything like that. I understand it. To make your money, your business has to run a certain way. And that means it's a 15-minute clock. And that's another 15-minute clock and another one. And that's the game. I get it. Well, this is the SMP game. And the SMP game isn't that game.
Yeah,
This is the people game.
I agree.
So put the people first, slow it down a little bit, just a little bit. Give it a chance. If you look at someone's scalp, I look at my son's scalp and my daughter. My son's 22. I'll run a comb through his hair, the thickest part of his hair, and I'll look at how far those follicles are apart. And I'll take a picture in my mind of what that is. And then I'll look at my 9-year-old daughter, and I'll look at her head on the crown, the fullest portion, and I'll look at that. I'll do the same thing. And I'll take a picture of that, and I'll remember that when I'm working, because it's not about density. It's about the illusion of density. And that's where art comes in. If you got that, you're going to be good.
Can
And
you? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Can you repeat that one more time, because that is such an important fact. It's a fact. It's not just, that didn't just sound nice. Like, that is a fact in terms of what this should look like. So if you don't mind, Eddie, can you please just repeat that?
So just remember that it's not density. It's the illusion of density. You're making it look full. You're not making it full. So back to my son or my daughter, when you look at those clusters on their scalp of a 22-year-old male and a 9-year-old female, there's plenty of space in there. There's plenty of space. Why? Because it has to have blood flow and oxygen. And so does the scalp. So does the SMP to live properly. So putting a dot everywhere is not art. That's not art. What that is you doing a job. And that job is putting a dot everywhere. And that's not what SMP is. It's not that.
Got you. And, to ask you this next question, I mean, it's pretty evident with, we've been talking for about 23 minutes now. It's pretty evident your mindset and, how you'd like to be remembered in the industry. But I'm going to ask you anyway, and do you see yourself as an artist looking to be respected amongst the industry, or is customer acquisitions more important to you?
So, I mean, everybody wants to be remembered, right? It's not my focus. These awards were not my focus. Recognition is not my focus. My focus is client. So if I have to answer the question, I love my brothers and sisters in the game, but their opinion of me, does it matter more than helping a client? Absolutely not. It's about the client and doing it right. And that's how I feel the right way is. And if those other guys feel like putting a dot everywhere and just going as dark as you can, and I can get you done in 2, and don't go over there because it takes more time and this and that, man, Rome wasn't built in a day. It just wasn't. And you can't approach art like that. You just can't. So the haircut game, stylist, barber, whatever you want to call it, they create miracles in 15 minutes. Miracles. The scalp game takes a little bit more time. So just slow it down a little bit. That's all. I feel like if they just slowed it down just a little bit, just a little more concerned, man, make that marketing crazy and do all that. I love watching those things. I get my popcorn out. I'm like, man, this is a deal. I love popcorn Picasso. I mean, I love it. I was
Yeah, yeah,
watching reels like I'm watching news or something. You know, I
yeah,
love
yeah.
it. But
You know,
procedure wise, just dial it down a little bit, take your time a little bit, and let's play that game.
get back to the process. You know, I felt really comfortable putting this question there because, like I said, you know, I've come up in the game knowing about you. You know, I see how you answer certain questions in forums and you go about it. So I felt comfortable putting this you know, giving you this question because I knew you was gonna answer it, you know, in the way, you know, that you did. Because I know you're not the type to sugarcoat stuff and say something that you would think is what needs to be accepted. And it's not like you're saying anything bad. I mean, you're speaking facts, but I knew you wouldn't put your tap dancing shoes on. But I kind of want to put you in a quick little spot. This is a little thing I've been doing with scenarios. All right. So I want to give you a scenario. All right. So client walks into your office, right? He shows you a photo of another S&P artist's work, right? And that's what they tell you they want, but it's obviously botched work, kind of like, you know, what we've been talking about. You know, hey, this guy, you know, this is second session results or whatever, first session results, and he tells you this is what I want. So now, do you take the job and botch him, or do you explain to him how S&P should really look and potentially risk losing him as a client?
This is a great question. Outstanding. I've been in this situation quite a few times, and so what it really relies upon is communication. So first thing you got to do when a client brings artwork in, uh, first thing you want to do is find out what they like about it. What is drawing you to this particular piece of art? Whether you know it's good or not, you just kind of keep that in the back, right? Because I made that mistake.
Start bashing the artist.
Yeah, don't let them bring it in and you just say, "Oh, well, that sucks." This,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, new stuff. Because, like you said, now you just lost that guy, right? Well, I've done that before, so I don't recommend that. So what I do recommend is find out what they like about it. A lot of times, all it is the placement. So they like XYZ procedure because, you know, it looks really good right here and the side looks great. You know, it could have a million blowouts back there. He's not even looking at that. What he's looking at is the proximity, the face shape, you know, the angle, that kind of thing. So my thing is when someone brings in art, just ask questions, find out what they like about it. You know, obviously they came to you, you know, if they were coming into Chris Torres's studio and they brought in a picture or whatever, I'm confident in knowing that Chris would be like, "Oh, okay, well, tell me what you like about that." Or he would say something like, "Oh, yeah, that does look nice." I know Chris. He's very smart and he takes his time with things. And I learned from him. You know, you could say I mentored him or whatever, but I feel like we came up together, you know. And he takes that kind of approach. You know, he's not gonna put any negativity in there or make the client feel like they don't know what they're talking about and things of that nature. So I kind of learned that from Chris because I saw that firsthand with him in Texas. We did some trainings down there, and
Who, Chris Torres?
yeah, Dallas Scalp Associates.
Okay, I was gonna say, is it Dallas Scalp? Got you.
Yeah, or Tattoo Torres.
Got
Um, yeah,
you.
so
So you're not gonna move forward and say, all right, you know what? I'm gonna take that 3,500, whatever, $4,000 and give you what you want.
you know what? If it's designed well, and that design will look good on that client, of course I would design it like that, you know. But I'll say, hey, you know what? Let's sit down. Let me map this out. I'll draw out the one that he liked. I'll draw out a bunch of other options and just let him pick. I
Got you.
mean, sometimes they'll pick that one, or sometimes, you know, and I'll tell them, hey, you know what? That's a little bit more aggressive because that was a little lower. If we go a little higher, you kind of get used to it. See if you like this better, and then we can always make an adjustment. It's easy to come down. You can't go back up, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, you gotta work with them a little bit. Um, but that's a great question because
We've seen a lot of that.
yeah, it's come up. It's definitely come up.
Seen a lot of that. You know, I asked the same question to Craig. Craig's bottom Lehigh. And he had a very interesting take on it. Not that he was all for it, but his reasoning for doing it, I was kind of like, you know what? Good answer. And what he said was, if he had a client who already had experienced botched work and refused laser and was really just having a difficult time with how they looked, and they came to him and said, listen, man, I know I have bad work, but can you just please do me a favor and just like even it out? Try your very best to even it out and lessen the amount of anxiety and stress that I'm having from this procedure. He said then and only then I would do that to help them out, but I wouldn't just take a botched job photo and go, okay, yeah, I could do that for you. And I was like, okay, good one. I see you. And, you know, I posed that to you guys because, again, you know, you guys are the OGs. And I know we got a lot of the younger guys now that are doing it. And I can kind of get it because, you know, these guys, you know, they want to make money and they're also trying to build a portfolio. So I feel like they think it's hard to look at it from, you know, to not look at it from both perspectives, because, you know, you're in business because you want to make money, but then you also have some standards in the S&P game that you should adhere to. So, you know, you get caught in that seesaw, and it's kind of like, damn, man, this guy's offering, you know, that's a $3,000 job and he wants it botched. Like, what if I don't get another client for another month or for another 2 months, et cetera, et cetera. So like, I kind of get it. How do you feel about that?
You mean botched, like as in like this dot size and that kind of thing, like that, or just like
Botch meaning like it's oversaturated.
oh yeah, no, I won't do that. I won't do that. I'll just say yeah, and then I'll do whatever I want.
You know what's a good one is, like, now that you said, because you like got a little more in detail, because you was like, botch, what do you mean? Like, is it big dots? Like, could you imagine someone coming with like the really huge dots and it's like, hey man, you know, can you do this? I'm pretty sure even if you tried, have you ever like even tried to make an impression that large? Like, it's almost impossible once you develop the technique.
Oh my mama, oh my mama. I had this guy contact me from Kansas, and he had gotten a couple procedures from another provider, and you know, he wanted to do something else. So me with my big bleeding heart and trying to help everybody, right? So I'm like, all right. So he comes out, get a session in on him. He starts asking me all these questions, you know, about, you know, my technique and this and that, which, you know, whatever, you know, sometimes people are inquisitive. Man, he sent me some photos. He sends me this photo. He said, hey, I just got this S&P kit. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. And right there, I'm just like, oh my God, don't even. And of course he did. His friend or him or whatever, they just went to town, and he showed me the S&P, try to pin it on me, of course, right? So I'm just like, okay, this is great. So I'm looking at it. I go, send me some photos. I said, you know, I don't own a needle in my possession that will make a dot that big. Like, I literally could take the biggest needle I have, stand there for a half hour, stick it in your scalp, and it wouldn't produce it.
And never produce that size.
Not even close. So, you know, in those kits, you get a lot of different needle sizes. You'll like get a 7 or a 9 mag or something like that. You know, even those the bigger round shaders, and they look to the naked eye or an unexperienced person as, you know, let's say a 1RL or, you know, even a 03 RLT. And so, you know, I know he totally screwed it up and this and that. Like, he contacted the Better Business Bureau, all this stuff. I'm like, I refunded him 100%, every penny, you know. And it's like, you have to like step back from stuff like that and realize, you know, this guy screwed himself up. he's trying to pin it on me. That's where your pictures come in, because I had a ton of pictures of when he came in, when he left. He sent me all these weird pictures after he had been home for 2 weeks. So all of a sudden the S&P grew into something else. I don't know what it was, but no, I would never put huge dots on someone that looked unnatural. Now, I've seen different areas of skin on, let's say, older client, and you're in the temple area, and even your regular impression tempo could be off, leaving a bigger dot than you would.
Impression.
Right? But you can compensate that because of your dot proximity. That's why you leave the space. So if you can camouflage a scar, you can camouflage a dot. So
absolutely.
Back to the design function of the person. But like I said, most of my guys will come in, and it's not necessarily like how dark it is or how close it is. They're going to come in and they'll say, oh, I like the line here and I like this. Can you do that? Of course. I mean, here, let me draw it on. I'll draw on a bunch, and it's rock and roll.
Do you have a favorite hairline that you like to execute, or you're just like, listen, give me whatever you want?
When I started, the hard hairline was my jam. I mean, I made my bones in the game doing that, and I still love doing that. But my favorite hairline is the next one. Whatever the next one is, that's my favorite. There's nothing that I don't like. There's not a challenge that I won't accept in that realm, because all of them are different. I work on a lot of female clients, and the shape is different. I've had female clients that have had hair surgery, and they gave them the Eddie Munster thing. And,
the Dracula shape up.
That's even worse, right? It's like, come on, man, really? Like, where did you go? So, yeah, there's not one specific one that I like more than the other. Looking at the industry and seeing some different things out there, I got to give a shout out to Mark Allen. I like what he does. The longevity of it, I want to see. I think that it's going to be a little bit more of a muted look. So what I've seen from him, it doesn't look too dark. So you can alter that as you go, and you can add to it. So that's the part that I like, because I know I've talked with Mark. I mean, we've sat down and, we've talked. And, I really like that way that he does the soft hairline.
He's got a real nice transition to it.
Yeah. And you can keep adding to it and messing with it over time. Now, I've seen some other guys, trying to do the hard hairline, and it's like, they got a ways to go. You guys, you want to know how to do hard hairline? You call me. I'll hook you up for free on the master level, because the hard hairline is very special and very unique. It's not something that anyone can do. And I've seen a lot of high-end people try.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of high-end people with a version of a hard hairline, and it's not good. So you want to know about the hard hairline?
Come see you. I feel, and again, this is not about me, this is about you. I feel like I do a pretty good hard hairline, because I feel like I've been able to identify what other artists are doing. And I look at that and I go, I see exactly why you shouldn't do that. And for me is, if you don't know any better, you immediately just think, okay, my impressions are going to go directly across to do this. It kind of looks like it looks like an ant formation, directly across. And I was always like, even as a barber, when you do a shape up on a client who does have the hair density to give them a hairline, you always got to go back and shave a couple of hairs on the hairline to give it that real prominent look. So like, I feel like I've always tried to go back and add a couple of impressions and never go straight across. Can you elaborate on your method? Like, is that how you attack it, or is this secret sauce?
I'm gonna put a video out on that, and I'll explain it in detail. But
Okay.
the biggest part of all of that is you cannot create a straight line by making a straight line.
Thank you. And I 100% agree, and that's where the art comes in, and why it is in fact important to truly understand what pointillism does and how it really works and how our eye receives that information. Because you and I both know, let's just talk about doing the profile or drop. One impression on that corner could essentially make it look rounded. Just one simple impression. Okay, say no more, man. You got to put the video out, because when people hear this,
I got you.
when people hear this, they're going to be looking for the video.
I'm gonna make one.
So that's the hairline. You don't care, you whatever the next one, you all for a challenge when it comes to executing the hairline. Do you feel like your technique, or not do you feel like, but I'm asking, does your technique change in between sessions? Like in the first session, do you do strict impressions, and then maybe your second session you go in and maybe do some flicking of the wrist to create like a little line? What's your process like?
You got great questions, David. Wow, this is fantastic. And this is a lot of great content. Yeah, in art, what you're taught in art is you can't create a masterpiece in one day. Okay, there's layers and there's rules. So when you're layering and you're following the rules, that's how you build it. You can't go in there the same all the time or it looks flat. So I had this discussion with Joe Taylor long time ago. And, I'm a charcoal artist by nature. So I took art all. So my senior year in college, I walked in and there was a local talent from, Gentlemen's Club in there with nothing on. Then I walk in the next day and it's somebody's grandpa with nothing on. So it was real, it was live, you had to draw everything. So you couldn't go in there, and these models were amazing. They would sit there for a 4-hour class and they would do that 3 classes in a row, day after day. I don't know how they stayed.
The discipline for that.
Insane. Well, the same thing is happening in the S&P, but you have to understand that first session, you're really checking out how that skin's going to react. You're not trying to get done. It's not finishing spray. We're not trying to get done and put as much in. What we're really doing is we're putting our toes in the water. And so although we're going to put a lot of pigment on there, we're not trying to max it out. So there's definitely different technique for each session. And like I had a gentleman come in today, and a little bit oily skin, not particularly active, so not like a skier or a mountain climber or something like that. He's a dad and that kind of thing. But his correct mixture, which coincided with his follicle shade, it's too light. So I looked at his sheet, I looked at the file. This is his 5th time coming in. I said, okay, I got you. So went back to Art 101, laid out all my angles on the scalp, got the areas darker that need to be darker, and then I feathered in the rest. So like you were talking about, as the eye scans, it's picking up the darker and the lighter dot, which also gives it that textured or 3D look. So, he left happy, he's done. He's done today. So, there has to be different angles, different thought process, different needle length, different shade, and that can change within the procedure. I know artists overseas, Andy Webb, he would use 3 different shades. In the US, we were taught 1 shade. So he would have a light, medium, and dark, and he could do that during the session right there, which I thought was very cool. And he's a Brandwood graduate, and Simon and Paul and them definitely know what they're doing.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
You know, I saw that, you know, versus our technique, which was, you know, scalp aesthetics. It was one color, one shade, and you just kind of rock and roll with that, you know, out of the premix, right? So, um, you know, it's definitely something where you get to really get into your bag as the sessions go on to try to make that outcome, you know, the highest it can be for the client. And you know, and on that tip with my last guy, another part of that was his shaver. You know, and I told him, I said, look, you've got that ring here, and that's why it's making it look darker. I'll go ahead and make it darker, and we'll get to the desired outcome you want, but you also have to get a better shaver. So I have the babyless
Nice.
um,
The
Pro.
the 4-inch shaver.
And so I shaved it and showed him, you know, how much closer it got, and it matched, everything matched perfect. So there was a little bit of darkness needed, but also a little bit of extra trim, or, you know, better uh, scalp prep by him. So, you know, and that's one thing too, you know, this isn't just on us. It's a two-way street. You could do the best rock star procedure you ever done and got a great picture, and then they leave and come back in 2 weeks, and this doesn't look
So
good.
all blotchy because they don't want to follow aftercare.
Exactly. Or, you know, they don't want to take a day off from the gym or the pool or the bicycle, you know, and it's like, you know, it's definitely a two-way street.
Yeah, for sure, man. You know, before we wrap up this masterclass that you have given us, that's what it's turned. That's what it's turned into, man. We got. I know. I know. I led you in, and you know, you gave us a masterclass, Eddie. You listen, man. You did us right. You did right by us. We appreciate you, brother. Um, what I want you to give one piece of advice that will help us become better S&P artists.
And just respect the game. Just respect the game. You know, if just by taking your time, respect it. There's a lot of people that don't say anything, and they are so good, and they help so many people. And yes, they have the big gold chains, and yes, they have the fancy car and the big house. Yes, they do. Trust me, they do. Just respect it. You know, if it's the loud, in your face and brash stuff, that's great. I love it. But make sure it's client first.
Outstanding advice. I appreciate you, my brother. Before we go, I want you to let everyone know where they can find you, website, Instagram. If you have a training or something that's coming up, by all means, please announce that.
Training is sold out. So
Oh, you're gonna have to deal with this for the time being until you put out a video on the hairline. That's the next treat.
yeah. So it's scalpartist.com, and it's Scalp Artist International. At Scalp Artist International is our IG. And same thing with Facebook. It's Scalp Artist International. We also have the Beverly Hills page. I'm not a big poster. I just got in trouble for my social media guy for not posting. I ran a small, you know, we always running experiments, right? You know, so I ran a small experiment, and this experiment went like this. What if I do zero posting? Will I go broke? Will my will I go out of business? What's going to happen? And I thought to myself, man, this is a crazy experiment, but you know, I'm going to try it. I didn't post for almost look on my social media. Everyone, look on my social media. I took a 2-year break from posting. During that 2-year time, I doubled my business.
And that's because organically you're taking care of things on the back end, right? So I'm assuming you're doing like Google ads and all that other good stuff, or you've probably developed a great word of mouth by now. Anyway, you've been doing this long enough. Okay, I see what you're picking up. I'm picking up what you're putting down.
And so it's not a slight on social media and the importance of it. I started posting again because one of my guys came in and said, you know, I thought you might have retired. So I was like, okay, start posting.
I'll be honest. I'll be honest. I thought you did for a little bit too. I was like, all right, listen, he's on to bigger and better things. I knew you were doing good. I knew you were doing good because I seen, you got some toys. I was like, hey, listen, I get it. I get it, man.
Oh man, when you said that, I was like, wait, what? I'm retired. I wish I was retired. So yeah, no, I post enough to kind of, to stay relevant. I get it. Some people are using those funnels heavier than I have, or their model is more closely related to that, and I get that. But what I'm getting at is be good at what you do. Put the client first. Social media is not everything, because all you got to do is just click it off and it's off.
Yeah.
Do a good
I
job.
think a lot of people forget about that. One day that can actually go wrong. Then what? What's your client acquisitioning strategy going to be now once social media? Like, there's so much more you can do at the back end.
Absolutely. I mean, and that's a whole nother, like, I don't even know.
That's a whole other podcast, bro. That's a whole other podcast. That's a master class. That you gotta pay for that one, man. But no, Eddie, man, I appreciate you taking out time from your schedule to jump on the podcast, man, and drop some gems for us. You gave us a 50-minute master class, man. I appreciate that. And I know it's going to bring tremendous value, to anyone who listens to it, whether it be a new artist, a seasoned artist, or even anyone who's thinking about coming into the industry. And I appreciate you, my brother.
Thank you, Ben. It's definitely my pleasure. And, hopefully this will help people put the client first. That's what we got to do. God bless.
Outstanding, man. I appreciate you again, Mr. Eddie Lopez. And that's going to wrap it up for this episode of the Scalp Solutions podcast. Until the next time, guys. Peace.